Hello guys and welcome to this quick and easy tutorial on how to get a 3D character moving around in your world. All of the code in this video will be in the description below, so if you don't want to type along, you can just copy it straight from there. Anyways, let's get right into the video. I will start with grabbing this free asset from the Unity asset store called Battle Wizard Poly, because I think it looks cool and will serve us well for the purposes of this video. However, you can use any character model you would like. You will just have to figure out the animations part yourself. After clicking the Add to My Assets button, you need to import the asset into Unity. The first way to do this is by using the prompted window in your browser asking you if you would like to open the asset in Unity. And the second method is within the Unity editor. Here, simply go to Window, Package Manager, choose My Assets from the Packages dropdown, and then you need to find your Battle Wizard Poly Art package. Click on Download and then import it into your project. Now that we have everything imported, open the Wizard Poly Art folder, and in the Prefabs folder you will find two wizards. Pick whichever one you like most. I will go with the green one. And I will also rename him to Player and unpack him so he is no longer a prefab. Right now, if we hit play, you will see that our wizard will start cycling through his animations. This is because of the way his animator is set up. He'll go through all of his animations to showcase them, and we don't really want that right now. So I will remove these transitions and make a few of my own, and also add a boolean that we will change in the character movement script later on. Of course, if you're using a different player model, for you this step will be a bit different and you'll have to make your own triggers and booleans and transitions to fit the player movement. For now, all we need is a simple walk boolean to switch between idling in place and walking. And if we look at our player again, you'll see that he's just standing in place and waiting for us to trigger his walk animation. I also forgot to remove the has exit time option in the transitions, which is needed so that they are instant. With the animations out of the way, let's move to actually making the character move. First we will need a character controller, which we can add by clicking on the Add Component button under our player, and then searching for character controller. I will leave all the values default, except for the radius, height and center, which I will adjust to fit the player better. The best way to do this is by taking the values from our capsule collider, which is already fitted to our player model. Next, let's create a new script, which I will call player movement, and open it up in Visual Studio. In here we will need a reference to our player controller and also a float variable to store the speed at which we want the player to move. Next, let's go down to the update method, where we will get the horizontal and vertical input from our keyboard, which is the WASD and arrow keys. We do that by typing input get axis raw and horizontal for A and D or left and right arrow, or vertical for W and S or up and down arrow. Also, if you're wondering, you could use get axis instead of get axis raw if, for example, you want to have more of a varying input, but for this video we simply want to check if the key is pressed, and if it is, we will return either -1 or 1. If you use input get axis, you could get any value in between, which is not needed right now. Now that we have our inputs, we need to convert those into a vector3 direction variable. This variable needs to be normalized at the end so that we don't change the speed at which we move when we press down on multiple buttons. Now that we have that, let's check the magnitude of our direction to see if we need to move our character. If it's higher than 0, we need to tell the character controller to move in that direction multiplied by our character's speed and also time.delta time, so that the player's computer speed and FPS doesn't affect the speed at which the character moves. If we save this script and add it to our player, we can see how it works so far. So drag and drop the script onto the player and give the player a speed of 6 for now. Also, let's pass it the character controller and hit play to see what happens. And as you can see, the player is now moving around when I press WASD or the arrow keys. Next, we need to make the player turn towards the direction he is moving, which can be done by using the matf8and2 function, by feeding it the x and z coordinates of our desired direction. Afterwards, we need to multiply this by matf rad to degrees, because right now this gives us the radians of rotation and we need the degrees to make our player rotate. Finally, let's rotate the player with the new angle before we tell him to move. Now, even though this will work as is, right now the player will snap to the desired rotation instead of smoothly rotating. To fix that, we need to use a smooth damp angle function, which takes 4 parameters. The current angle of the player, the desired angle, a reference to a variable for the current turn velocity, and also the time in which we want the character to rotate. Finally, let's use our new smooth angle instead of the rotate angle to rotate the player in the correct direction. And we're almost there. The only thing left to do is change the animation of the player to walking when we get some input. To do that, we need a reference to our player's animator, and down here, before we tell our controller to start moving the player, let's change our walk boolean to true, if it's not already set to that. And let's also make an else statement for when the direction magnitude is 0. In this case, we want to stop our walking animation, again, if it hasn't already been stopped. And with those final lines of code, we're done. Now we need to assign the animator in the inspector, and let's see if everything is working. Okay, something isn't right. Did I make a mistake in the script? Yes, I did. I didn't type walk correctly. Let's fix that and give it another go. And yes, everything works perfectly now. Well, almost everything. Even though this is good enough for any game where the terrain is flat, in my case, and I assume in many of yours, we need the character to climb up and down the terrain. So far, the character controller move function will move the character up a slope, but when you try to go back down, you will start floating. To fix this, we need some type of gravity. There are lots of ways to apply gravity, and you might want to use a different approach that might work better in your game. But for me, in this case, it is going to be enough to add gravity to our direction before we tell our player controller to move. And finally, here's the character moving with gravity affecting it. Alright, so this is it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed and found it useful. If you'd like to find out how you could get the camera to follow the player around and also rotate, subscribe and stay tuned for my next tutorial video where I will show you just that. But for now, this was everything from me. Thank you all for watching once again, and I will see you next time.